Last month, Metair, with a market cap of 3.8 billion rand, bought a 99% stake in Rombat. Rombat is the largest lead-acid battery manufacturer in Romania. The group said the 440 million rand purchase gave it complementary technology platforms and access to Europe's vehicle markets. Gerbrand, let's start with you. This is a very interesting stock to look at. Very exciting stock if you got in a year ago, 87% return. Very exciting stock if you got in April 2010, R5.50, sitting at 25 rand. What's been driving this stock? Just break it down into the key functions of the business.
Yeah, look, it's very interesting. It's a company that joined forces with Toyota, I think 39 years back. It does a few parts. The biggest holding is actually National Battery. If you look in the South African market, it's actually batteries. But they also have a few other products that they do produce for all 7 manufacturers in South Africa now. Funny enough, it's one of the areas that South Africa seems to be competitive in if you look at everybody investing in South Africa. And there's a lot of exports going on as well. It's not just the local market that's been growing over
so basically
years.
It produces batteries for
not just
vehicles.
Batteries, it does lighting, it does wiring, it does shock absorbers, it does a lot of some of the automobiles and parts. It goes not only into new cars but also into the second-hand market and for repairs, etc. So yeah. It's a very interesting company. We've looked at it a bit more in depth on the balance sheets, etc. So yeah, it looks certainly very interesting, and we were lucky enough to get in a few months back,
as you say, lucky enough. Let's talk about the prospects for the company in terms of new technology. It's going to be providing BMW a new 3 Series which start production in South Africa this month with start-stop valve regulated lead-acid batteries. That's basically a new form of battery. It helps make the car more fuel efficient. What are your thoughts on this kind of contract and the fact that they're saying they're going to possibly announce further contracts for other equipment manufacturers?
Now that all sounds good, and that's part of the story that has gotten people excited, and it's one of those stocks that, you know, was totally forgotten and ignored, and people have started talking about it more, and it reflects in the price and the volumes pick up and so on. Look, I think you've got to understand something important though about the South African auto industry. Back in the old days of apartheid, the South African government thought, look, we've got to have cars because every self-respecting country's got to have cars. So they designed the Motor Industry Development Program, which was a complex system of credits and where companies basically, if you wanted to assemble cars in this country, had to use locally sourced parts up to a certain value percentage. Now that program has been phased out and replaced by another one, but basically it protects the local auto industry, which was seen by them and those days and also by our current government as something important to help protect our industrial base because it's heavily unionized and it's located, you know, in various regions of the country that are strategically important. So that's what gives them their license to be in business, and that's fine. The only problem is, you know, it's kind of like it's only there because of the rules, and if they were to go away, we would have a problem. They did point out in their recent results that, you know, they feel the current regulations will keep them covered till 2020, you know, which is a good few years from now. So that's why they're getting these deals, and that's why they can leverage that into exports and help, you know, BMW and these other people that manufacture certain brands here and then move them around the world and so on and so on and so forth. So I guess it's an okay kind of story. And the Rombat acquisition, I laughed at that. I thought maybe it was the Wombat acquisition, but no, I was assured it's the Rombat acquisition. Yeah. So, you know, it all sounds fairly good, and I think the earnings are going to be there. But to me, it just feels a little bit like a slightly artificial situation supported by the specific regulations.
It's your view right now then on getting into the stock at 25 Rand. As I said, R5.50 back in April 2010. I know you've got shares in the stock right now, but would you be buying it now, hot or not?
Yeah, I think 32 Rand is probably the target price we're looking at, and I'm with Paul on that for another 8 or what years. They're sitting in a brilliant scenario. They got good management though. They are cost competitive so far as against some of the peers, etc. So they're not all just bad and ugly. Their balance sheet is clean. There's 300 million Rand in cash on the balance sheet before the Rombat deal in Romania. There is also, if you value their properties at the correct way and still be conservative, you're looking at about R1 billion of properties, industrial properties sitting on the balance sheet as well, which they valued only for 300 million on the balance sheet. So You're sitting with a market cap company. It was easier to say it 6 months back of 2.8, but it's now 3.8 billion rand. And you're sitting with property about $1 billion. You sit with no debt. You sit with decent earnings. You sit with decent dividend yield. Just seems fine for us.
Is it
of 7.5.
So hot or not? Hot or not? 25 rand, yes.
Yeah, I still think so. Yes.
32 rand, perhaps a price target. 32 rand is the price target that Gerbrand's putting on the table. Very clean balance sheet. But has the stock run too hard? Did it get a bit carried away? Has it got a bit carried away? Is that a concern?
Well, not really. I mean, the earnings I think that they're working on is somewhere in the region of R2.60. So by my usual old rule of thumb, 10 times the most recent earnings sounds not too unaffordable at the current level, but the earnings are variable. So the question is, how much can you give it? What are the risks to them? Are there other issues that could crop up if the rand flies out of bed, or if they have some kind of setback in relation to the government's activities in this area? Not that I'm particularly expecting that, because we know the government and certainly the Department of Trade and Industry is very committed to NUMSA, National Union of Metal Workers unions, and they are heavily employed in this sector. So I think they'll come out to bat for them. But I wouldn't buy them now. I just think the industry is a bit dodgy.
I think the industry is too dodgy. But I mean, surely when you see 87% 1-year return and you hear what Gerbrand has to say about the exposure to a space where their batteries are needed for clean technology, surely.
Look, everybody loves cars, that much is clear, but we know globally it's an industry that's not known for its profits. It's very well known for its products, but not very well known for its profits.
Okay.
In the US market, we saw the terrible crash that happened in 2008 when so many of those automakers basically hit the wall. And now we're back and things are looking better, and certainly the Germans are doing well, BMW, Mercedes. My sense, if you want a hot stock from me in the auto industry, would be to say, forget about trying to make money out of the boring old component providers. Go straight to the front end, the sharp end of the industry, and buy something like Tesla, which is a Silicon Valley-based electric car manufacturer. It actually started by a South African, Elon Musk. And this thing has traded between $15 and $40 a share in recent months just because nobody knows whether it's going to succeed or not. Put it in your gambling portfolio.